So the National Dialogue Eminent Persons Group has assured South Africans that the process will be free from government influence. This week's national convention will see representatives gather from across society to set the agenda. Now, some legacy foundations and parties in the Government of National Unity have pulled out due to funding concerns and problems with planning. Eminent Persons Group member Professor Nomboniso Gasa says ordinary people must lead the discussions.
We do have to be confident in the ability of South Africans to state their positions independently of government. One of the issues that we have never really resolved around this was where would the funding come from? Does the fact that funding comes from taxpayers released through the presidency at the moment, or even allocated through the National Treasury to the NEDLAC process, does that mean that government controls the national dialogue? I think if we see the national dialogue as a space of contestation, and if we understand South Africans as people who are able to articulate their position, who, without any fear, there will be fights in the National Convention, and there will be fights in the national dialogue, and part of it would be whose voices are heard. I doubt very much that the president's voice will emerge the loudest and one that will be accepted by some.
Well, the Forum of Stalwarts Foundations says it will be participating in the upcoming National Convention, which it calls a step towards preparing and launching the citizens-led national dialogue. The group consists of the Charlotte Mannya-Maxeke Institute, as well as the Duma, Nokwe and Kotane Foundations, among others. But for more on this, let's speak to some of those foundations represented, of course, in the Stalwarts Foundations Forum. We are joined in studio by Soul Msane Foundations, Mr. Zola Dlodlo, who joins us here in studio. Via video link, we're joined by the Duma Nokwe Foundations, Dr. Nomvuyo Nokwe. The Lillian Ngoyi Foundations is Sullivan Mphahlele, and Moses Kotane Foundations, Mr. Steve Mashia. Guys, thank you so much for joining us. A good evening to you. The clock is ticking. Much anticipation, a lot of criticism as well in the lead up to this moment. But I think just as we start, Mr. Dlodlo, 2 days away, the sense of readiness, and as we continue to see the Action SA, for instance, pulling out of this process, does the confidence still remain that this convention is still going to be as impactful as what we'd like it to be?
Good evening, Naledi. Good evening to the viewers, and good evening to my colleagues. Naledi, we started this process from day one as a Stalwart Foundation with the other foundations, including the legacy foundations. So we know what we want, and we are ready for it. Yes.
Yeah, and let me ask the readiness as well from our guests online. Dr. Nokwe, confidence despite the many criticism and perhaps your view on yesterday we saw the Freedom Front Plus saying they're not going to be participating in this convention. And then, of course, today the latest being Action SA also saying they're not part of this process. What do you make of those developments?
Naledi, good evening, and to your viewers. Well, from our side, as Dodlo has just said, we have been on this since a time, way back 3 years ago. And I think we feel that, we should go on, and it is part of the legacy. And two is that, misunderstandings and negotiations can go on. It's fine. It's part of the process, so to say. So, yeah, we are ready. I think we are on board.
Yeah. From the Lillian Ngoyi Foundation, Mr. Mphahlele, why the Lillian Ngoyi Foundation said, well, we also are not moving, we're staying?
Good evening, Naledi, and good evening to everyone. This is long overdue. We are currently sitting with a population of 63 million people in South Africa. The economy is not growing, sitting at 0.1% as at the first quarter of 2025. Unemployment sitting at 33%. There are a number of challenges which are of national concern. And therefore, it is very, very imperative that we find a solution as in like yesterday. And therefore, we are more than ready to go ahead with engaging objectively and making sure that South Africa, or maybe we participate in ensuring that South Africa takes the right direction going forward.
Yeah. From the Moses Kotane Foundation, Mr. Mashia, I think I'm going to start moving into some of the criticisms that you have received, though, in proceeding with this convention. The criticisms have been that, for instance, the Democratic Alliance says this is a politicized process, an opportunity for the ANC to campaign ahead of the 2026 elections, that this is an ANC convention and not a national convention. What do you say to that?
Good evening, and good evening to the viewers at home. We, as the Moses Kotane Foundation and the Stalwarts Foundations Forum, we are ready for this convention. As Tata Mandela said, it always seems impossible up until it is done, you know. So we are aware of the criticisms that are happening, and we are also aware that there are a lot of mixed, feelings and reactions, and I think they reflect a country that is alive, a country that is a democratic, but from where we are sitting as the forum, what we are then submitting is that we as the forum have got confidence in how this process is underway, it's undergoing, and we are happy that even the program itself is going to be done by the people themselves at the convention, and the people are the ones that are going to set the tone as to how this national dialogue is supposed to take its form or shape. So this is not a political platform, and in any way that we would pick up that it has got some influence of some sort, we'll be the first to say this is actually a platform, a program that we have advocated and steered and support, to say at the end of the day it must be a bottom-up program where it is a program of the people, for the people and by the people.
A bottom-up program. The legacy foundations, when they stepped away, much of their criticism was that they don't see this convention and this process becoming a citizen-led discussion. So let's talk about the how we get to citizen participation and that bottom-up program that Mr. Mashia is mentioning. Mr. Lolo.
Naledi, as Solim Sane Foundation, me as a person, as Zola Lolo, I'm the person who's on the ground with people every day. So I know people's struggles. That's why I felt the need that we need to participate in this dialogue so that we can raise the concerns of the people on the ground. And the most critical one is it's a case of the foreigners. You see, that one is a critical one because people they are in need of the services, but we can't get off no pending.
Go ahead, sir.
Yeah, sorry.
Okay, I'll bring that question to someone else as well. Let's talk about the how. Mr. Mpahlele, the question becomes, how do we get to the bottom-up program? I see Mr. Jojo also talking about the themes that need to be discussed, but I want to hear how we ensure that this is a citizen-led program. So to the South African that is watching and saying, I want to contribute, how do they do that, Mr. Mpahlele?
I guess there are a number of channels that are available for ordinary citizens to participate in this national dialogue. As I'm speaking, I'm one of the ordinary citizens. I'm not rank and file of any political organization. I'm just a representative of the foundation. And we have been invited to participate, and I will be representing the views and sentiments of the ordinary person in the street. And I think that is one of the channels that one could say the how is being addressed.
Yeah, again, the platforms to participate, that becomes the real question. Where are the platforms for public participation? Dr. Nokwe?
Well, we're going to be meeting now on Friday, and there's going to be a framework which is going to be worked out. And that certainly, as all my colleagues are saying, is that, members from the different regions or the provinces will be coming on board, and they'll be voicing whatever they have to voice. And I think it will be very tug and war, but I think we have seen something like this, and this is, I think, historical, because if you go back to 1955, when the Freedom Charter was, introduced, I mean, of course, it came with its own challenges as well. So, but I think this is a historical moment, and I think we should not miss the boat.
Okay, I want to take some calls, right? We've got the Stalwart Foundations here with us, and they, of course, are proceeding with what we will see as the first national convention from the 15th to the 16th. It's taking place at UNISA under the theme Uniting Voices, Shaping the Nation, and essentially it will lay the groundwork and set the agenda for the national dialogue. What is it that you want to see them do this weekend? Let's take calls on 010-594-6010. Manus is in Pretoria. Manus, good evening.
Yes, good evening, Nali. What I want to say is that, I'm so disappointed with a lot of those that are pulling out, because it appears to me they're just joining the bandwagon of those that have pulled out. And it's disappointing, because how do you judge something when you have not even seen what is going on and you have not even attended? They are judging simply because others are pulling out. And my suspicion is that, these foundations, some of them, I think, wanted to appropriate this process to be their own personal legacy. And that's for me, it's very disappointing, Yeah. And also, looking at, organizations like AfriForum and Solidarity, those are not patriotic organizations that we should be worried a lot about. They are pulling left while the country wants to go right. So for me, I'm just disappointed, especially by organizations that are progressive, like Action SA. I'm disappointed with them.
Yeah. Well, Manus, thank you so much for that. And it certainly raises the question around how we ensure that even in the convention and in the dialogue, there is a representation of all the various faces of our country and all races and groupings. Let's hear from Zanele in Durban. Zanele, good evening.
Evening, my lady.
Yes, thank you for calling.
Hi. No, I just want to comment.
Go ahead.
On this dialogue. It's waste of taxpayers' money. Do you know how much 750 million can do? And I'm not surprised that de Klerk and them have withdrawn. It's eminent people who are having it all, and us who are poor sitting there on the streets. We are not part of that thing. And they're going to have breakfasts, lunches, and dinners there on taxpayers' money while we're starving. It's nonsense. I can't wait for the next election. I'm getting out of the ANC. Thank you.
Zanele, thank you so much for calling. We will take more calls, 010-594-6010, and your WhatsApps as well on 072-110-5584. We are with the Stalwarts Foundations that are proceeding this weekend with the National Convention that will lay the groundwork for the national dialogue. What is your message to them? What is it that you want to see them achieve in the 2 days that are Friday and Saturday? We'll get more calls and views, and of course from our panel as well on the other side of the show. Stay with us. Welcome back. The clock is ticking. We're getting closer and closer to seeing the national convention taking place. The first national convention kicks off on Friday at the University of South Africa. The theme that it's taking place under is Uniting Voices and Shaping the Nation, and it will lay the groundwork and set the agenda for the national dialogue. We are joined by the Solomsane Foundation, the Duma Nokwe Foundation, the Lillian Ngoyi Foundation, and the Moses Kotane Foundation that are proceeding with the work of this weekend. Keen to hear your questions and views that you'd like to share with them as well as we get closer to that all-important 2 days. I do want to just address some of the criticisms that we heard from the viewer before the break, Mr. Mashia. Of course, naturally, the views from South Africans matter, their concerns, because this process ideally is about them. Mr. Mashia, Zanele says this is a waste of taxpayers' money, that you're going to be having nice dinners and lunches, and we are not part of this process. What do you say to a citizen like Zanele who holds that view, that says we know the problems of South Africa, we need solutions rather than dialogue? What do you say to that, Mr. Mashia?
Thank you, and thank you to the viewer that has registered the concern. I think it is proper for the citizens to then voice out honestly their frustrations where there are frustrations. We are at a juncture as South Africa where we need to take stock of our country, where we need to then say where we come from, and where we're supposed to say where we are, and where we have to look at where we would want to see South Africa for us and for our children and for the generations to come. We are the foundations that have got constituencies in different areas, rural deep areas of this South Africa, and other urban areas. We know the scourge of joblessness. We do not have economy within our hands. Our people do not have land, and most of us as South Africans, we are talking on a lot of platforms that are proper for consciousness and for awareness. But this will be one of those first important, well-organized, structured, process that will then be, be taken, by those that's supposed to implement those views that South Africans, ordinary South Africans, would be then saying, this is what we would want, in South Africa, for the South Africa, and for the South Africa to be and to happen. So it is going to give an opportunity to everyone to then have their views, so that their views must be, processed properly. Not a process only where citizens are engaged, only around elections. So this is a process where everybody will have their views, and those will be structurally processed, so that it goes into an implementation that South Africa becomes what we all envisage and it to become.
Yeah, one of the big questions, of course, becomes at the end of this, and you talk about implementation, but what does that look like, and the imperatives that are there for implementation to be seen. But Mr. Dlala, let me come back to you. When you have a party like the Freedom Front Plus, for instance, saying they are walking away from the convention and from the dialogue, they, of course, represent a certain constituency, yes. Right? So a lot of the time they'll speak particularly for the white Afrikaans grouping in South Africa for the most part. Can you have a discussion in South Africa and a dialogue about race relations without the representation of the white Afrikaner, in your view?
But remember, if they decide to pull out, we can't force them to be part of this dialogue. That means they don't represent their constituency. So we are here to represent us. So if they feel that the dialogue maybe is useless, it's up to them.
How do we, Dr. Nokwe, help us with that? How do we ensure that we have representation from all the racial groupings, the cultural groupings, the various classes in this dialogue? That's going to be incredibly important for it to be, as we say, the theme, uniting voices shaping the nation.
Yeah, Naledi, that's a very good question, and it's important. And I think we won't give up. I mean, as Tata has said, that, we have to rely on the most of the voices. And I think already, I mean, of course, the African National Congress has a diverse grouping. And of course, that has the different constituencies within. So I think we will also go out, advocate. And I think we have come out from our comfort zone as Africans, so to say, from the TRC, and we haven't seen much changes. Those cases have not been tackled. So it's all these things that need to be addressed. And I think those people, and we're hoping that they would change their minds. And I think the door is still open for them to come back, in case they rethink. I mean, everybody at this critical moment is still, engaging in themselves and exciting and questioning themselves. So I think, time will tell, and we're hoping that, whoever, who changes their mind will come back. And I think the door is always open. And I think that is what the whole national convention that we are going to be mapping out for the next 2 days will be framing that framework to ensure that everybody's voice is heard as much as possible.
Yeah.
And as you said, we're almost over 60 million people. So it's definitely a consensus issue.
Yeah. Let's quickly take a caller. Sister is in Johannesburg. Sister, good evening.
Hi, evening to you, ma'am.
Yes, thank you for calling.
Thank you for taking my call. So basically, I just think your callers, your guests, they are living on a planet different from us. I think South Africans have spoken. We understand our issues. We know what needs to happen. We are tired of the talk. We want action. And I concur with the previous caller who said this whole weekend's meeting will be about lunches, breakfast, and dinners, because even the constituencies that are representing South Africans, there aren't young people that we are seeing right now on TV speaking on behalf of young people. There aren't women that are out there speaking on behalf of women. Yesterday we saw the unemployment stats. There's 140 people that have lost their jobs. I think it's 140,000 people that have lost jobs this term. And yet we want to go and have dinners and talk about what? We need action, guys. There's no time to go back to 1956 and talk. 1956 people marched and action and things happened. Now they want to sit and have dinners and discuss in meetings and speak for South Africans as if they know what we want when we tell them they're not cheering us. I think.
Sister, let me ask you this, because at the end of this, the idea is to have a national compact where the country says, this is the plan that we need to have with all the voices. So again, the dialogue is about getting to the end of that national compact that says, well, this is the action plan that we have as a country. Is that not convincing for you?
We've been having a dialogue as South Africans. We have been speaking. I think people are not listening to us. I think leaders are not listening to what we've been saying for years and years. It's been 30 years of us speaking and saying, our health system is in tatters. Our education system is going down. And, the country is really dilapidating. Can we start working? We don't want people to be speaking. There is no time to be sitting around the table and talking. It's about time we pull our sleeves and do the work on the ground. This dialogue would not do anyone justice. At the end of the day, it will benefit the minorities. Okay. And I'm very happy for those that have pulled out, because they're not just speaking for Afrikaners or for white people. They are speaking for most of South Africans that are saying, we have had enough. have it.
Yeah, sister in Johannesburg, thank you so much for your views. Let's take a look at a few WhatsApps from our viewers as well. Of course, the number 072-110-5584. One that says, hi, my name is Ricardo. I've got so many questions, but for now, please explain or rather educate me why we need a national dialogue, whereas we have a presidential imbizo. Isn't that serving the same purpose? Interesting. Thank you so much for that. Good evening, Naledi. I think it's because they lost hope in the national dialogue and the issue of it being rushed, because it looks like there's a lot to unpack from that, because this is not the South Africa that our forefathers and grandmothers fought for. This is definitely not the South Africa that Nelson Mandela fought for. It's so disappointing to see foundations pulling out of it. Tumako from Butokwa sending that one. Kumbuza says, with these pullouts, I think this has now become the ANC dialogue. The ANC should humble itself and temporarily cancel the dialogue. They then have to make some introspection on why people are pulling out and be more inclusive. Without this, they're just being stubborn, and this may not be embraced by all. Kumbuza, I appreciate your views as well. Spusiso in Nelspruit says, what is it that they want to achieve? Because poor people are not represented in that forum. Who will tell the pain of people without a voice, or is this another looting to fund next year election by the ANC? Well, you hear from the Stalwarts Foundation we hear from the foundations that they represent the views of people. They're operating on the ground in the various communities. We'll take one more caller. Deborah, good evening. Okay, we've lost Deborah. All right, so let's get final thoughts. And I think what we want to do, just as we wrap up, and I'll start with those that are joining us via video link. Dr. Nokwe, I'll let you go first. Appeal to the South African, why this is an important process, if you're able to, and then perhaps some themes that you think really need to be prioritized in the weekend ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Naledi. Yes, and again, I must just emphasize that we're not talking from a high, profile there. We're also part, or as public participants in this whole, the journey. And definitely, we're appealing that those who want to participate should join. And if there are any queries, and that's why it's going to be a very robust discussion, and it's not about, lunches or whatever. It's going to be a very robust discussion, and I think the general public is welcome, and that's why we're having this platform with you, as well as, the journalists who will come along to be part of this whole process.
Okay. Mr. Mashia, themes that you think really need to be prioritized in the days to come?
All I can say is that this is a platform that I will still call on South Africans to support. One, what is going to happen over the weekend is that there's going to be this convention where people will be sharing ideas on how this dialogue is supposed to take shape. It is not a dialogue. So it is a platform where all walks of life in South Africa, human beings will be coming to share their thoughts, because it is not a program where any leadership of any sort have, said this is how it's supposed to be.
Yeah.
Everybody is going to contribute, to that. So what we are seeing as Stalwarts Foundations is, let us restore the dignity of our people. Let us deal with issues that South Africans are complaining about. People do not have land. People don't have jobs. There's a lot of lawlessness and crime in South Africa. And so all those must find expression and must find space in the dialogue and its processes.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Mr. Mpatlele from the Lillian Ngoyi Foundation, what needs to be prioritized on the 15th and 16th?
There are a number of things that needs to be prioritized, which are of national importance. And I will start, number one, it will be things like the economy. We need to find a way of growing the economy going forward, because through that, opportunities might be created. We need to find a way of reducing the unemployment. Everyone is talking of sustainable development goals. We need to ensure that the environment is conducive, not only for this generation, but also for future generations. Very important, we need to be looking at the skills and education. Year in and year out, we see the number of graduates increasing from universities, but unfortunately, we don't see the impact of those graduates in the economy because unemployment is increasing and the economy is not actually growing.
Yeah.
We need to see integrity. Somebody said we need to prioritize integrity and reduce the levels of corruption. So technology is also very important. Artificial intelligence, how do we create more with less? So those are high level, the themes that I think should be addressed to ensure that we don't find ourselves in situations where other nations eat our plate on the dinner table.
Mr. Dlodlo, your final thoughts, priorities for the weekend?
As my colleagues has alluded, we are in agreement. I'm in agreement with them of all what they're saying. What I want to add on is about the economy continues to suffer because of shortage of opportunities and jobs. The skill gap is the biggest problem. Thousands of young graduates sitting at home with no work is because of economy can't absorb them. NSFAS must stop funding technical education. I think NSFAS must start funding TVT education and not the universities. As South Africans need skills, not papers.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. So those are themes that you'd like to look at. All right. Yes. We'll be watching closely on the 15th and the 16th as the convention kicks off. Of course, once again, the theme, uniting voices, shaping the nation. It's taking place at UNISA. And of course, we have been speaking to the Stalwarts Foundations Forum. Thank you so much to our guest, Mr. Zola Dlodlo, in studio with us from the Sol Msane Foundation, Dr. Nokwe of the Duma Nokwe Foundation, Mr. Sullivan Mphahlele of the Lillian Goy Foundation, Mr. Steve Mashia of the Moses Kotane Foundation. Tell us what you think they will be able to get done on the 15th and the 16th, and you can do that on X at Newzroom 405. Let's take a short break though. More news on the other side.